What is the most important phrase you have heard in your life that you will never forget? I look forward to hearing your answers to this question. What phrase will you never forget? Enjoy the show. Story 1. Being a good person is like being smart. If you have to stop me just to tell me you are, you probably aren't. Don't remember where I got it from, but I love it. I freely swap smart and a good person with any other positive identifiers that fit the situation. And I don't know how many people I've said this to who have immediately switched to conversation to how great they are. Story 2. In regards to smoking, drinking, or any other vice addiction. If you don't control it, it controls you. Just put it down and walk away. If you keep it in your life, even to slowly quit, that means it has control. This can be applied to shitty relationships too. Pretty much anything not healthy for you that is in your life. Just put it down. Story 3. In regards to smoking, drinking, or any other vice addiction. If you don't control it, it controls you. Just put it down and walk away. If you keep it in your life, even to slowly quit, that means it has control. This can be applied to shitty relationships too. Pretty much anything not healthy for you that is in your life. Just put it down. Story 4. Do what you want, but be prepared to deal with the consequences. You can be good or bad. There are always consequences, no matter which you choose. It is entirely up to you on whether or not you will make the most of such consequence. My grandfather told me this, and it has stuck with me. Story 5. I work as a school bus monitor, and I primarily work with special needs kids. One of the things I was told early on, which applied to every kid, but especially the SPED ones, was, we may be the only friendly face these kids see every day. Obviously, when I work with regular kids, I keep that mentality and try to be friendly and kind to them, but knowing how mean kids can be, and even some parents, I take extra care with my special needs kids to make sure they know they are loved and valued. Story 6. Everything about my father, his values, his ideas, the things that intrigued him, the things he feared, all of that will be lost to time, as the only words I remember from him are, God, you're useless, completely hopeless. If you had half a brain, it would be lonely. A message delivered with spittle-flecked fury. A message inspired by almost nothing, in tandem with what I suspect was not being able to feed his addiction. If you have kids, impart a better message to them. Be careful how you're remembered. Story 7. No one wants to help someone that doesn't want to help themselves. As a rowdy teenager who blamed the world for everything that was going wrong, it didn't compute. But as an adult, I now know that you have to take accountability for the part you play in your own misery. Once you take the initiative to get yourself out of a bad situation, you will find that lots of people are willing to help you along the way. Story 8. What punishments of God are not gifts? I always hated God only gives you as much as you can handle. That is some absolute bullshit. Nah, the universe is chaos. There is no plan. If there is a God who will sign off on the abject suffering I have witnessed, he's on the wrong side. But I do take a little meaning from working to find the gift in the punishment. Suffering doesn't have to be in vain. Story 9. How much of your life do you have to spend with someone before they become your family? It's made me really reflect and realize that people who are related to me by blood are better to me than some of these who aren't. I don't define family by genetic relation. I define them by their actions and proof they actually care about me. Story 10-1. Never borrow money for luxuries. You can borrow money for food or shelter, but never borrow money for things you don't need. From my dad. 2. Let people in fully and completely. When you're having an interaction with someone, give them your full attention. Don't keep peeking at your phone or the door to see if something better is happening elsewhere. Immerse yourself in what they have to say all the way. 3. Please don't let what was get in the way of what's next. And don't forget that what's to come hasn't come yet. Your past led you to the present, but it shouldn't dictate your future. From Devendra Banhart. 4. You are what you pretend to be, so be very careful what you pretend to be. From Kurt Vonnegut. 5. When you're happy or having a good time with friends, make sure to say out loud, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I guess this is similar to stop and smell the roses. Except instead of making time to enjoy the little things in life, it's more a way of letting those around you know that the little things in life are worth pointing out and remembering. Also, Kurt Vonnegut. Story 11. I'm late to this, but for me it was just one word. So, I was 19 years old, had been working at a job I really didn't like, was sitting on the front porch at my grandma's house with an uncle of mine that was visiting. I was telling him about work, and that I wasn't really going anywhere. He asked what it would take to get the job I wanted. I told him it would probably take getting a few certifications, a couple being pretty tough, several tests, several hundreds or thousands of dollars. He said, "So?" I looked at him a little dumbfounded. "So go do it," he said. I'd been feeling sorry for myself and thought it was just impossible. Had never really considered actual doing what it would take. It was all a pipe dream to me. That night, I signed up for a 9-month certification preparation course in a different city as they didn't offer it in mine. Couple nights a week from 6:10 p.m. 50-minute drive from where I was working. I worked until 5 p.m. I already had a family at the time, wife and a young son, but we made it work. I'd jam after work to get there. I never missed a class. Graduated with honors. Spoke at the graduation. Had half the certification tests passed before the course was over. Finished the rest shortly after. Getting that certification really launched my career, and I've now been working my dream job for many years. Every time something comes up at work or in life that's hard, I just say to myself, "So," and jump in. That one word has really changed my life. Story 12. 2 things from my parents. The February of my senior year of high school, I was in the car with my dad and mentioned how much I wished it was June already, when school would be over. And he said, "Don't wish your life away." That really struck me, because of course it doesn't make any sense to wish to just bypass days of your life. You should enjoy them. You have to go through them, so why not look for what there is to appreciate? And my mom often used to bust out this little tongue twister, "Never trouble trouble until trouble troubles you, for you'll only make your trouble double trouble if you do." The idea there is that if you worry about something that might go wrong, that you don't have control over, you're just making yourself miserable for nothing, because maybe it will be okay. And then, if it does go wrong, you've spent way more time dealing with it than you actually had to. Wait to work yourself up over something until you actually have a reason to, not way in advance. Story 13. Had a professor prepping us for disappointment and setbacks in the real world and workplace. Said, "You can get bitter or you can get better." I use that with my own kids and the kids I coach all the time. Anytime they complain about something not being fair or when they don't make the team they want, etc., I don't pamper them. I just say, "What are you going to do? You going to get bitter or you going to get better?" Story 14. You can always take more drugs later, you can never take less. My mom was an addict when she got pregnant with me, and for several years after. I was in a lot of sketchy situations as a kid because of her addiction, so she worked hard to make sure I understood drugs since I was exposed to them a lot. I was maybe 5 when she explained overdoses, and that was when she said that. I only smoke weed and drink, but those words will forever be tattooed on my eyelids. Story 15. One thing I've learned from this whole thing is that if you try and put in the effort, maybe it doesn't have to be much effort. And of course, sometimes you have to take breaks, but if you try to do the work day by day for a year, at the end you'll find yourself a completely different person. Mark during the Eunice Annis Final Hours stream. Not an exact quote, this is solely based on memory. Story 16. This is not the first time, nor will it be the last time I've pissed someone off. I figured this out after having many uncomfortable confrontations in my life. The worst possible outcome was to make someone mad as far as I was concerned. Now I'm more inclined to think they will have to get over it, and how they feel about the what I hold them accountable is not my problem. Story 17. Context first. Dealing with some negative mental stuff, PTSD and friends. Wife of a good friend said, "You know, I think that in this world, to get through well, we need courage and gratitude. I'm not saying it's the end-all be-all of phrases, but it's actually helped me a lot. Not always easy to do it, but saying it and understanding it has put me in better place many times." Story 18. Mine comes from Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental. That line just resonated with me and something I keep close, and helped me understand that everyone is going through their own shit or have their own awesome lives without showing it, and we shouldn't judge them for it. We don't know. If we don't ask. Story 19. This place I used to work, the top-ranking manager was the treat me well, I'll treat you well kind of person, but she was also a no-nonsense badass. There was this insufferable douchebag that worked there, and he was full of himself. Don't get me wrong, he was a good worker and pulled a lot of weight, but he made sure everyone knew it. Thought he owned the place kind of thing. She was sick of him. They clashed all the time because of that. One day they were arguing in front of everyone over something dumb. He threatened to leave, and she basically said, "Don't let the door hit you." He said something along the lines of, "Good luck finding someone to replace me." She smirked, and then she said, "Even if I have to hire 5 people, I can replace anyone." Fucking mic drop. He was all mad and just walked out on the job, and I never saw him again. Spoiler, it didn't take 5 people to replace that guy El Mao. Story 20. When I was in middle school, I was complaining that I had to do some school activity, and my mom said, "You don't have to do anything." I think it was just a flippant, offhand comment, but it's probably the best and worst thing I've ever realized and shaped my life from that moment forward. Story 21. The priest that married my wife and I told me to put her happiness before my own, and told her to do the same. The first year was hell, spent figuring out how to do it. He was an amazing man that we respected and trusted. After that, we started doing as he said. We've been happily married for 28 years since. We had our own challenges. It was sometimes very hard, but in the end, he was right, and following his advice was the second best decision of our lives. Story 22. Don't let perfection stand in the way of good enough. I struggle with motivation sometimes. When I was a teen, I just nope out of such basic stuff, but came to realize that sometimes a quick, tidy round is okay if I can't handle a deep clean, and 2K is better than 0 if I can't be arsed to do a proper run. Also, starting a task is often the hardest part, so giving myself the freedom to half-ass a job often leads to me whole-assing it. Story 23. I know it's phrased kinda odd, but verbatim it was, if you doubt, don't. Basically, despite how it sounds, it's just, if you have a bad gut feeling, something doesn't feel right enough for you to hesitate or be suspicious, don't do it, nope out of there. Many times I've narrowly avoided situations with people who've had ulterior motives or where I would have gotten stuck in between some nonsense. Story 24. The first line of what I believe was the first book M. Scott Peck wrote, called The Road Less Traveled. It was, life is hard. I was in grad school at the time, and thought it was only me that had rough patches and serious self-doubts. That line made me ponder the idea that it was hard for many people, if not everyone. Story 25. My Phil was dealing with cancer at the time. He passed. And I was reading a book, and something along the lines of, I wish you didn't have to be this strong, but I'm happy you are, hit me. Made me think of my Phil and Mill, so I texted them that and added whatever. I will never forget. He called me crying and said, thank you so much for that. All I could say was, you'll be okay. You'll get through this, with us both knowing there's nothing else that can be done. I miss him so much. Story 26. My mom and I always say, why is it always us? Often in reference to inconveniences that we endure. Considering our family dynamic, we feel like we encounter so many odd situations that no other families out endure. This can also include random minor inconveniences like someone parking next to us in an empty parking lot, or us switching cars and forgetting my mom's disability pass. We eventually had to stop saying it BC. We felt as if it was occurring more. It's something we love and hate to say. Story 27. De esto se aprende cuando no se sabe nada. Nadie sabe dónde va uno a terminar. It means we learn from everything when we don't know anything. No one knows where one is going to end up. I recently got it tattooed. It's from a song called Dime Quien from Los Atlanticos. And I really like it because not knowing what will happen next in my life and where I'm going to end up is one of the things that keeps me going. Story 28. To stop saying it's okay to everything. It's an ingrained habit and it subconsciously allows people to think their actions are acceptable. The disrespect toward me has gone down significantly. I've since then started saying I understand, I forgive you, or I understand but I don't forgive you. That's not okay. No in between. People wouldn't do most things that would hurt you as an adult unless they meant it. Story 29. When I first became a dad, I was told, the days are long but the years are short. It wasn't important to me then, but now that my kids are almost teenagers, that saying has never felt so true. So while it may not be the most important thing ever said, I'll pass on to any new parent that the days are long but the years are so very short. So try to find peace in the difficult, challenging, or even mundane situations that parenthood can bring. Take lots of photos, take photos of your partner with your children too. You'll look back on all of this fondly one day. Story 30. This quote of Theodore Roosevelt's has been stuck in my mind for a while. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Story 31. The minute you understand that you can poke life, and that if you push something in, Something will pop out the other side. That you can change it and you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing. Steve Jobs. I hear this 10 plus years ago in one of his interviews, and it stuck forever in my mind. This phrase actually motivated me to become self-employed and start pursuing the things I love, despite people thinking that some of them are probably unrealistic. I succeeded in achieving some of them and still working on others to this day, and I remember this phrase pretty much every single day. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.